The last reading was telling us that if we have a lot of money, it's not only a blessing, it's also a test that we have to learn to share that money. But also within that reading was that all human beings have desires. And okay, we all need money in order to feed ourselves, in order to have clothing to stay reasonably warm as needed, depending on where we live. But then beyond that, okay, look, it's more fun to have money, to be able to do what we need to do rather than to be in poverty. But we can get consumed by our desires, that we have 10 shirts, we want 10 more. We have this size of a house, we want a bigger house. We have whatever, this kind of car, we want a better car. And on that goes in the material world. And I've actually met some very wealthy people that live very simple lives, that they have a very small home, a very simple car. They don't want people to know how much wealth they have. They donate. When they donate, they say, don't tell anyone about this. They don't want to be up on stage. I just gave so much money, everybody look at me. And I see that they're working their way towards saintliness. That whatever they have, they just simply want to share with others. And then, of course, there is the exact opposite. Swamiji once joked, I've never heard of a miser so greedy that he refused to eat because he was thinking, I wonder how much this spoonful is costing me. I could be putting that in an FD. But there are misers out there that, I mean, every time they blow their nose on a tissue, I wonder how much that cost me. Okay, that was just, this many rupees or whatever, this many paisa. That's not a fun way to live. But a fun way is to be sharing. Why? Because then we're not thinking about ourselves. We begin to think that, okay, God will take care of me, God will take care of me, and that I will help others. Of course, we can't push that too far. Swamiji would tell us about Hollywood in the beginning, when it first was starting, that there was movie stars who were making a ridiculous amount of money, and they would just give it away, and they died in poverty. And that wasn't exactly quite right. And they also died sad, that they then had nothing. And so here's an important point, that when giving, be it money, your time, your energy, you also have to think of yourself as one more human being in the whole equation. That you can't give away all of your money so that you have no food to eat and then you just die and think, well, okay, I'm a saint. Usually that won't work for us. That we'll start getting more and more sad and think, I feel hungry, this isn't working. But if you just think of yourself as one more person in the equation, okay, I'm giving, and just like a family, if you have children, okay, you need to feed your children, but you also need to feed yourself. But not think of, oh, I'm more important than my children, and therefore I deserve better food. That thought doesn't ring quite right, does it? And we can then just expand that into all of the different ways that we share. So you do need to take care of yourself in some way. We just have to watch this guy called ego and make sure that we're not thinking that we're less than others or more important than others, that we're simply one more of God's children, and that certain things are needed for this physical frame. One more interesting thing. I've often thought that God made diet, food, farming, that there's no one food. You can't just eat apples and be healthy. That you need to eat some carbohydrates and some protein and whatever, all the vitamins and minerals that come from. By the way, there's lettuce sitting over there and broccoli that we've brought from the monastery. Our gardens are going very, very well. Everyone's welcome. It's a strange kind of prasad, but it will keep you healthy. Anyways, you're welcome to that. But here, the point there was that you can't just eat lettuce. I always thought God made it like that on purpose so that we would cooperate. It forces us as human beings to cooperate. This guy grows this guy knows how to grow this, and then we need to buy some from him and some from him and some from him. And that God wanted us to learn how to share. And so, I mean, just from the very beginning, as you know, we incarnate and have physical bodies, we need to put food in them, we need different kinds, we start learning how to share. And okay, we incarnate many times and we start realizing that somehow if I, whatever, share my crop with the other farmers, that somehow God's taking care of me, and if I just think I'm going to eat all of this for myself, God doesn't take care of me. And we start learning that it's nice to share on the physical plane. But of course then, there's so much more that we can be sharing on an energetic level. That with Swamiji, whether we were watching a movie together, whether we were out shopping together, or whatever, eating a meal together, whether he was giving a satsang, in his presence, you felt some kind of joy on it. You just felt your problems, oh, it's okay, it'll all be okay. And you just felt good, you felt happy. And it was his energy, that he had an aura that was sharing, that was giving, and that he was giving on high levels, not on low levels. And we, in time, as we grow spiritually, we begin to feel that we are having different energy exchanges with different people, and that we want these to be divine, that we want them to be sacred, uplifted. We want them to be rooted in the higher 3 chakras. We want to give love to each other, peace, joy. There's a man who wrote a book, and there's a movie about it. It's called Life After Life. I can't think of his name right now, but anyways, you can Google it. And he passed away. Do you remember his name? Raymond Moody. And so when I first came to Ananda, I watched this movie about Raymond Moody. And he'd done many wrong things in his life, and he passed away, and I forget whether it was Jesus Christ or some angel was doing the life review with him. And he was trying to block the screen with his body. I don't want the angel to see that I did that and that. And that being was just laughing, because of course, we all make mistakes. We all do all kinds of wrong things. But the one who was doing his life review was just love, and asked him these things that doesn't matter. How much have you loved? And this is the kind of sharing. What's the highest way that we can share? That we can love others. The other day I was giving some advice to someone who's struggling to meditate enough. And she was saying, I think if I had more devotion, but I don't understand. How would I then meditate more? And what is this devotion anyways? And I said that if you love your child and you have to take him or her to school at a certain early time in the morning, you love your child. You might not want to get up in the cold and go take your child to school and whatever, feed the child and bathe the child and all these things that have to happen, but because you love the child, you'll do it. And if you love God, then you'll want to spend time with God, and you'll do it. You then will want to meditate. But we have to build that relationship. An interesting thing that Swamiji said is that when 2 people are really comfortable with one another, it's easy for them just to sit comfortably in the silence together. And that's a fascinating point, because sometimes we can have arguments with one another and then we're sitting in the silence together. But that's not the kind of silence I'm talking about. There sometimes is a silence that you just feel good around one another. You know there's nothing that you really need to say to each other, that's superfluous. It's just floating on the top of things, but that you have a bond that's actually much deeper, that is the true essence of love. I want to tell you something here. A few days ago, I don't know, a week ago, I did a class on Swamiji's book, How to Be a True Channel. And I had not read that book in maybe 15 years or something. And I realized that I definitely have grown on the spiritual path, because in the beginning I read it, yeah, nice book, okay, got a few points. This time, and I needed to read the whole thing because this was a book review kind of that I was doing the class, going chapter by chapter. So I read the whole thing carefully, and wow, yeah, wow, Swamiji, this is so deep. And I felt, yes, I've grown in all of these years on the path, but then Swamiji was able to take me to deeper levels of understanding. And anyways, in this class, I said that as we grow spiritually, so I was talking about energy, now let's go up to the thought plane in terms of giving. That you can mentally send people love. You can send them peace. You can send them joy. This is a good thing to do. By the way, if you send people love, they'll automatically be attracted to you. And that may be a good thing, it may not be a good thing. You can figure that out as you need to. But I have come to realize through different experiences that I won't go into this morning that this even is a very subtle thing. That just, now think of this, let's go back to the physical plane. That I could give you a gift, I don't know, a chocolate bar. You might have diabetes or something and you can't even eat the chocolate bar. And you're like, okay, thank you, that was nice. And I'm like, eat it. And you're like, I'll eat it later. Or I could give you something that maybe you very much need on the physical plane. I don't know, it's cold and you need a hat or whatever. I'll tell you a story. It's not a personal one. It's an interesting one about Shurjo. He and I used to live together in the same house. It was when he first came to Ananda and I was kind of in charge of that house. And we all were invited out to some ashram. And so we went out there and I don't know, they thought we were spiritual people or whatever. So they invited us up on suddenly we were like dignitaries. We show up, there's this function and all these hundreds of people and they bring us up on stage and they're thanking you for gracing our occasion. Oh, okay. And they hand each one of us a shawl, a nice thick shawl. And Shurjo gets all weird. He's like, and so I just didn't say anything. We're up on stage and we all take our shawls. And then afterwards, like, Shurjo, what was up with that? And he kind of made this look of like, should I talk about it? And then he told me. So he'd just come and he was living there in the ashram and he was really cold at night. But he didn't tell anyone. I was like, why didn't you just tell me? I would have arranged and made sure you had a blanket. But when you're really new, you're wondering, how's this whole thing work? And when you're young, you are more tempted to take these kind of bold experiments. When we get older, it's like, just someone please give me a blanket. So what he was doing, he was praying to God. I'm cold at night, I need a blanket. God, if you're really there, please bring me some way to stay warm. And so when they gave him that a few days later on stage, he was like, God's listening to my prayers. God is there giving me what I need. Now, back to if I gave you the chocolate bar, or if I gave you that shawl that you really need to be warm, one of them's really going to make, you'll be really happy, right? And so the point here is we need to learn how to subtly listen to each other. We need to learn how to listen to God when sharing, when giving, so that we can be channels for what is actually needed. And now coming all the way back up to the top of the mountain on the mental plane, that we can't just bombard people, love, 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 love. And they might be like feeling like Shurjo, like, I'm just feeling a little weird here. I don't know why, but I feel a little weird. Let me tell you one more just fun story. I don't have that much time, but a different friend of mine, Vijay Gerard, he lives in America now. He was doing a level 1 class, and there was maybe 20 people in the room. He was sent to Sacramento with Haridas to start the Sacramento Center. And so Vijay's there and he's teaching now Hong, Sa, Hong when the breath comes in, Sa. And it's fun to hear Vijay tell the story and it's fun to hear Haridas tell the story. Anyways, in the middle of it, this lady stands up and she says, stop, stop, something very weird here is going on, just stop. And then Vijay, who's teaching the class, says, he laughs a little bit, he says, okay, yes, something weird is going on here. Do you want me to tell you what that is? And she says, yes. And so he says, if you are already from Ananda, please, I don't know, stand up or raise your hand. So 19 other people stood up. They were all from Ananda village. They had come to support Vijay, these two young guys who were doing the class. She was the only new level 1 student in the class. And when you hear Haridas tell this story, he was praying, Vijay, look around, because he was just the whole time was like, so hong when the breath comes in, saw when the breath, and she was like, why is he just talking, like, this is weird. And so anyways, that fun little story, if you just mentally bombard love, people are going to feel it. Something weird is going on here. And so I was kind of talking about this in the class, and afterwards someone called. I was like, wait, because all the time I'm, sending love, sending peace to my children, to my loved ones. And she was like all freaked out. Well, you mean they might not want it, and this might not be a good thing, but this is what I do. And I said, well, first of all, just calm down. It's okay. We do need to be radiating out all of these different higher qualities mentally. It's a good thing, but that we should learn to listen very, very subtly. And listen, is it being received? And then a few nights after that, sometimes as I fall asleep, I'll just kind of pray and send out, God's blessings. And that evening I was praying for all of the monks and mentally just going through the monastery and just sending love. And then that conversation with that girl popped in, and I was like, does each one of these monks, and this is all just mental in my head. I mean, it's not like I'm going door to door like, before these guys are going to sleep. I'm just mentally, but then I realized, okay, like it feels fine, but I think there's something even deeper. I think there's a place of love within myself that doesn't even have to push itself out on others. That it's quiet, that it's silent, like two people sitting in a car that really are comfortable with one another, that there's a silent thing. So even on a mental level, that there's somewhere within our soul that's just this silent, perfected love, that it's still there. It's not like it's cold and just withdrawn. Sometimes I've met many intellectual people who say, why should I pray for others? God's already within them. And they close themselves off by doing that, and they don't become channels for God's light and God's love. So we need to be channels. But the point that I'm trying to make, and it's a very subtle point, is that somewhere within us is this quiet, perfected love of God that allows others to draw on it whenever they want. And coming back to what it was like to be in Swami Kriyananda's aura, that you felt you could draw anything from him, that it was all there, the entire universe, all understanding, all wisdom, all solutions to all problems, all deep, deep feelings of peace and contentment and joy. And that's another thing that I want to urge us to share today, is your joy. That if you give lectures, it's not enough just to read the book and give the words. If you're a school teacher, it's not enough just to teach children arithmetic or algebra or whatever. When you're there teaching those children, that you need to share your joy with them. That when you're with your children at home, or your husband, wives, whatever the case may be, it's not enough just to share physical things, buy each other flowers, whatever. Please do that also. But we have to share our joy. And now, what if we don't have joy? How can we share that which we don't have? It's so easy to just blame the world. Well, of course I don't have joy. Just look around. But that doesn't work. We have to learn, how am I going to have joy no matter what? Even if I'm cold at night and I don't have a blanket, can I have joy, and can I pray for the physical thing anyways? God will bring it. And really, then we have to find time for meditation. We have to make time for meditation. We have to make that the most important thing, because then we'll be able to do all of our duties much more better. We have to learn how to tune into God in all of the different ways that are given on this path. We have to come, it's nice to come in person to satsang and exchange magnetism. If you can't, okay, online's better than nothing, but I do put in person as a higher thing. It's the saints that aren't necessarily standing up here talking, but just sitting quietly in the audience and have that perfect quiet love, that perfect quiet joy on the inside. There's been so many times in Ananda that there's been group meditations and I sat next to someone and I just, wow, that was a good meditation. And then you sit next to somebody again and you're like, oh, maybe, the first time you're like, God, I'm so great. I sat so still. I listened to God. And then you realize, wait, every time I sit next to that person, I'm really good meditation. Something's going on here. And we want to have that silent kind of joy. And even, it's fine. We want to learn how to express it outwardly in our words, in our eyes. When I first came to India, we went out to restaurant something, and the waiter brought water or something. Thank you. And my friend looked at me like, why are you saying thank you? I said, I want to express my gratitude, even for the little things. And he said, it's with the eyes. You can learn, Mr. Loud Westerner, you can learn to be a little more subtle. And you can just express your gratitude with the eyes. And I thought, oh, I have some learning to do. And anyways, the point here is this is an all of life that we can learn to give. And you won't make it on the spiritual path if you think you're just going to meditate for yourself, and then you'll definitely find God, and then you'll give God to others. Good luck with that one. See you next incarnation. That whatever you get, joy, love, peace, you have to share that right away with others. And it doesn't mean you have to go out on the street and now force people to do Hong Sa. But you just have to have that on the inside. And when the waiter brings you the water, you just somehow subtly have to convey that joy, that gratitude, that each one of us is a piece of God's show, of God's light, of God's joy. And we're all serving one another in all a myriad of, just a multitude of different ways. And it's such a joy when we live in that consciousness. And I'm supposed to end here, but lastly, when we come to a guru, that we think, well, I want his blessings so I can sit in full lotus posture, or I want his blessings so that I can go deep in meditation, or that I can have more peace, and or that he'll give me, teach me, all these different thoughts. But that's just the beginning. Then what do we really want? We want to change our consciousness. And he has the power to help us change our consciousness. When I was meditating right here, I looked up the other day, there's a finite number of thoughts in the entire universe. It's 50 million that's written in the autobiography of a yogi. And so my mind, kind of in this meditation, would start chewing on some thoughts. I was like, but there's 50 million of them. I was thinking, okay, you could think those are out there, but really they're in here. And I was thinking of meditation today as like herding cats. I don't know if you've ever heard that expression, but anyway, things that just want to go out, and you try to bring this one in, and then that one goes out, and you try to bring, so these 50 million thoughts, I can just kind of bring them to the point where you can know all thoughts that have ever existed, ever will exist. And so we can go to Master to try to learn a new word or something, or we can go to him to receive his consciousness, which will help us learn to get within inside of ourselves, where we realize who we truly are, that it's all one, that we are one with the waiter, we are one with all of the different farmers, we are one with all of the wealth in the entire universe, that anything that we need, if we can draw on God's power, that he can give it. And then we learn that it's our job to be a channel and to give that and to give everything. And ultimately, you have to become a guru. It's not enough to just bring people to Master. That's just the beginning. Then you have to continually change on the inside. Share your consciousness until you can help others achieve the highest level of consciousness, where they too know that they are one with God, always have been, and always will be. So I wish you the best of luck in all of your sharing in the upcoming days, and I look forward to spending more time together. Joined in prayer
we worship thee, rays of light that seek the sun, many drops to make us see, thus our love when joined as one, thus our love when joined as one. Joined in prayer we worship thee, rays of light that seek the sun, many drops to make us see, thus our love when joined as one, thus our love when joined as one.
Wonderful.